Welcome to Obsession Engineering. This is my 2006 Aprilia Tuono and it is brilliant. It's got a 125 horsepower engine, which is, as I consider it, the perfect amount of engine for the road because you can use all of it. It grunts wonderfully out of corners with its big V-twin booming away. The soundtrack is excellent. The seating position is nice and comfortable. I've got big handlebars and a nice upright position. And the chassis is great. You can throw it around like a sports bike and you can have a riot of a time on it. It is the best road bike I have ever owned. And I've sold it. So obviously I needed a replacement for the Tuono, and if I'm honest, I've been thinking for a while about having something a little bit newer and a little bit smoother, a little bit more user-friendly day to day. And I wanted something with flat handlebars for that comfortable ride around and something fairly sporty. So what are the options? Well, I like a Kawasaki. I just don't like the look of any of the current bikes they make that are naked with flat handlebars. The same goes for the Yamahas, the MT10 and the MT09. They might ride really well, but they look like they've been crashed and not fixed very well. In fact, not really fixed at all. So the Yamahas were out. Suzuki, as far as I can understand, don't actually make anything interesting anymore. So that was those out. And Hondas, well, I'm not collecting my pension yet, so I can't have a flat-barred Honda. So what about the Ducatis? Well, I've ridden the 1200 and the 821 Monster, and the 821 was a real consideration. Sensible amount of power for the road, nice fun little bike, but I didn't buy one of those. I also really considered the Street Triple 765 RS with the decent suspension in it, and that ticked every box. That was in fact really the perfect bike. Nice and light, relatively small, sensible engine, and I've said before, 100 to 130 horsepower is what I consider to be the perfect amount of power for the road, because you can actually use all of it and it's not frustrating that you're, not using a bike to its capabilities. So there you have it. The best bike I could possibly buy was a Street Triple 765 RS. But I didn't buy one of those at all. What I did was I bought with my heart and not my head. And I bought something with possibly the greatest soundtrack of any modern motorcycle. Woohoo! Yes! I've bought myself a V4 1100 factory Tuono, and I love it! So I've bought this one off Rich, one of the other rapid coaches, and I've actually ridden it round Brighton before on a coaching day, and I've actually had it in the workshop for service. It is used. It has done 17,000 miles. It's been used in the rain and in the wet, and it's been thoroughly looked after and correctly serviced, and is mostly standard. Excellent. Second gear corner. It's a bit damp and greasy today, but that sound! Every time it's that sound. Oh, this thing's brilliant. So obviously no bike is perfect, and this one is not an exception to that rule. There are a few little niggles with it. The clutch lever sits a bit high for my liking, but if you lower it down, when you pull the clutch lever it turns the traction control down because it hits the button. That just gets annoying resetting all the time. So I need to rearrange that, but what I need to do is move all the switch gear around on the handlebar so I can move the clutch around. It's a bit of a faff. It has a factory fitted quick shifter, which is okay, but it means it's in road shift, and if I want to put it in race shift I need to change the gear lever, which I will be doing at some point fairly soon. This one has an Arrow GP style little funnel exhaust pipe on it, which has basically no packing volume, which means it has a lot of audio volume, which is lovely, but you basically have to run it with the baffle in all the time, and that probably makes it give less horsepower than the standard exhaust pipe that I didn't get with the bike. So that will be getting changed at some point. Then the main niggle at the moment actually comes from probably having the exhaust pipe on it. I've ridden a few of these V4 1100 factories, and they've always had the Aprilia exhaust pipe with the Aprilia like race map in from the Aprilia dealership, and they've all ridden perfectly smoothly. This one doesn't. This one has slightly snatchy throttle at low speed, and when you first shut the throttle it's got a little bit of carry on, and all that comes from the fact that it basically runs lean for emissions regs, and so it needs a map in it. There are several options for putting maps in them, and I'm going to be exploring those in the coming weeks when the new exhaust pipe turns up. But for now, what I'm going to do is just enjoy riding round on my new toy. I just love this thing. It's blooming brilliant. So what do I like about it? Well, the engine is overkill in the extreme. I don't need this level of performance, especially on the road, but it has that ability to just pick the throttle up at almost any revs and it just fires you into the scenery. It's just a masterpiece. It's smooth, it makes a wonderful noise, and once we get the throttle connection sorted, it will be a joy to ride around on. The chassis is lovely. I formerly owned an RSV4 race bike, and the chassis is just, again, a masterpiece. What they've managed to do is build something that turns nicely, is so utterly neutral, it's stable on the brakes, it's stable all the time really, and it's just lovely to ride. It's forgiving, it's confidence inspiring is what this thing is. So the brakes are perfectly adequate. The front ones have more power than you currently need on the road. The rear one though is basically decoration. I only really use the back brake when I'm filtering or riding through town. But at the point you want it to actually stop, and it doesn't, so I'm hoping a pad change will fix that. The riding position on this is, I find, a little bit more comfortable than my old Tuono, mostly because the fuel tank's a little bit shorter, and I quite like sitting quite up the front of a bike, so like the wheelbase and bits of these bikes is actually fairly long, but the seating position makes the bike feel quite small, and I like that. I'm not actually sure how heavy it is, I don't imagine it's especially light, but once you're moving it's so neutral you don't particularly notice any weight to it. It flicks around and I think it looks good. This is a facelifted 2016 bike, so it's got the prettier nose cone on and possibly the best looking rear end on a bike for years. I think it's just pointy and cool and looks like something out of Batman. So that's it really. What I'm going to do now is hoon around on my Aprilia, get some miles on it, and over the next couple of months do some modifications and see if I can make this already wonderful bike even better. So there we have it. I have sold my Aprilia Tuono, which was brilliant, and replaced it with an Aprilia Tuono, which is brilliant. I think it's all gone brilliantly. Obviously there will be some improvements made to the bike over the next few months, so stay tuned to see what I'm going to be doing to the V4 Tuono. Thanks for watching, and join me again next time for some more motorbike fun.